Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amit Noskar, research staff member in Carbon and Composites group and also group leader in that group, and my colleague Dan Miller from Partnership Directorate. We would like to talk about the technology that we have recently developed on lignin-derived high-performance plastics for composite matrix applications. And before I start talking about, I would like to give you this sample so that you can see this sample. These are the plastics that we developed, different types of compositions that we got. So what are the technologies we are talking about? It is definitely lignin-derived commodity-grade plastics with properties that are better than state-of-the-art lignin-derived plastics. And plastics, here we are talking about two types of plastics, thermosets and thermoplastic. So thermoplastic is one that you can mold it again, and it is recyclable. Thermoset, it is cross-linked, and whenever you mold it, the shape is permanent, then it cannot be reprocessed. Now, lignin-based thermosets, for example, polyurethane, and those kind of products are there, but those are very brittle and weak, and mainly foam application in automotive industries they're looking at. Those are the thermosets, but we are not interested in that. We want better mechanical properties, and thermoplastics particularly we are interested in. So the concept is the biomass derived products, for example, paper, biochemicals, tall oil derived plastics, this kind of product exist. And in making those products, frequently those industries, paper mill or biomass industries, they burn the lignin to meet the energy requirement of that mill. Now, the situation has changed because of the oil price, and lignin has now value, and we are exploring, and this is probably you might have heard before, this is continued problem, and we are addressing because we learned more about lignin chemistry, and we are leveraging that our current ongoing work, and recently, based on those technologies, we have developed these products that you are looking at now. Now, what is the status quo? So what are the other plastics, lignin-derived plastic? As I mentioned, polyurethane. Other applications would include this kind of plywood or wooden fences or fuel pellet. But tough and high-performance lignin-based thermoplastics needs to be developed, and that can find good market if we can make better products. And what is the hypothesis here? Hypothesis here is if we can make lignin-based copolymer, a copolymer that means lignin will be acting as hard phase in a soft matrix, then that can replace styrenic copolymer, ABS, acrylonitrile butadiene styrene copolymer, where styrene is the hard phase. Can we replace that styrenic moieties by these bio-based derivatives? That was our hypothesis and goal. So, what are the new insights? What did we learn? So, historically, whoever in different industries, whoever were working on lignin-based plastics or lignin-based products, they were utilizing as received lignin, whatever paper mill or other sources lignin that were available. But here in this chart, I'm showing you our new, this is probably 1 month old data. Here I'm showing the rheological properties of lignin that are derived from poplar and from our Bioenergy Science Center hub at Warrenel. They have grown these different types of poplar. It has different genotypes. From similar kind of species, poplar, hardwood lignin, and different genotypes, so they have different structure. And you can see here we are measuring the viscosity of that melt, lignin hardwood melt, at different time. And you can see a couple of orders of magnitude difference in viscosities here. So, all lignins are not same. Can we exploit that understanding, whatever the structure and properties that we are developing, that understanding, can we exploit that to make new kinds of product? And that can be exploited for different commercial uses. Now, how will it work? So the concept is, okay, as I mentioned earlier, lignin is my hard phase now. It will replace styrenic moieties. Styrene is not good for automotive part application nowadays because of styrene itself is carcinogenic and it generates lots of VOCs. And I'm not disclosing that here, reactive plasticizer, it binds well, and I don't need to do a separate synthesis step. Polymerization means you need to have a monomer, then you need to polymerize, and you have to have a different purity criteria to make a high molecular weight polymer. Here, our extensive lignin purification is not necessary, because even if some salt is there, we will exploit that ionic reaction mechanism. And not only that, our synthesis is done during the extrusion step itself. So by doing that, you can minimize the synthesis step, and it would be a reactive in situ product development type work. Now, when this lignin is bonded to this reactive plasticizer, the material becomes thermoplastic. Now, depending on the ratio of those materials, you can produce different kinds of thermoplastic. It can be thermoplastic elastomeric in nature, it can be brittle thermoplastic, and if you vary the ratio, it can be a thermoset too. So what are the assumptions here? This is, of course, very novel and new recipe. Structure property relationships are still unknown. As I mentioned in my previous chart, that you have seen the rheological property varies significantly from product to product. Now, what is the quantitative impact? What did we learn? What are the mechanical properties of these lignin-derived plastics? So, if we plot commercial lignin-grade plastics, for example, polyurethanes, you can see the tensile strength is very weak, and that's why they are focusing on foam application. It is brittle, spongy material, 3 megapascal tensile strength, and very brittle. It may not even elongate up to 10%, so 8% elongation. Now, our target is, can we make it 10 megapascal tensile strength, more than 100% elongation? So that would give a good toughness, and our target is, we know this is bio-based product, it will have hindrance in market. So our target is automotive interior application, where the soft elastomeric product will be useful because of impact and safety of the passengers inside the car. So that's why our target is, can we make a product that has more than 100% elongation? And of course, if we want to make composite, then the properties can be as high as 15 MPa. Of course, we have to add reinforcing agent there. And can we make more than 10% elongation in that composite application? So that's our target. And we believe this composition can be partially or fully carbon neutral, depending on the choice of plasticizers. So what is the status of the technology? We started working on, this was almost like unfunded project, our Friday afternoon experiment, not every Friday though. So in 2010, August, we prepared some composition and we got 1.8 megapascal tensile strength, and ultimate elongation was not that good. Then we varied every year, every summer, we used to host some summer student, and we used to tailor the formulation. Then we learned in the meantime, and we developed a product which now gives 5 to 6 megapascal tensile strength, and ultimate elongation varies between 200 to 300% elongation. So I believe this is a good product now, and this is still neat material, and if I can include any reinforcement there, I can easily go to higher level, and we can sacrifice some of the ultimate elongation here to get this 100% elongation, and I'm confident about getting 10% elongation in composite formulation. So what are the competitive differences in this technology? So we are talking about this VARNL partially carbon neutral material. The feedstock is, of course, low cost. Purity requirement, lignin, if it is coming from pulping mill, it may have 2% impurities, salt, that is still acceptable. Of course, 10% impurities will not be good. We cannot extrude that material. So high purity requirement is not that critical for this kind of product. For petroleum derived material, for synthesis of those, it is really very critical, and those feedstocks are not necessarily low cost. Processing cost, as I mentioned, that we are utilizing this lignin as a macromer. We are not starting from monomer. Lignin is a large built block, and that is tethered with soft segment, and that's how we are making, almost mimicking block copolymeric product. So processing cost is minimized. We don't have to put a separate synthesis step. Toughness is definitely high. It has very high ultimate elongation. It is carbon neutral partially. If we choose a natural soft segment, then it would be 100% carbon neutral. Unfortunately, if it is coming from kraft mill, it would not be order free. So it would have typical order. But if we get soda AQ processed lignin, soda processed lignin, then there won't be any sulfur, then it would be order free. So it has choice. I mean, we can choose whatever lignin we want. If it is exterior product, we don't care about order. If it is interior, definitely that would be an important factor. Now, serious drawback with this kind of product is transparency. Lignin is colored material. As you can see, the sample I have shown to you, this is dark in color. It would not be a transparent product. Whereas in case of petroleum derived product, odor free and transparency is good. So with that, I'd like to seek who could be interested in this kind of product. We identified 3 different potential industry or different groups of industries. They might be interested in this kind of technology. First of all, whoever is supplying this raw material, feedstock suppliers. So we have talked to some of these listed companies. Also, we are interested to look forward to others if they are interested in, and we are talking to some other industries, those who are not listed. For example, we have talked to Procter & Gamble also. They are interested in their other products, non-oven products. If it is not very black color, if it is brown, they will accept it. So Domtar, Georgia Pacific, Metso, they are the feedstock supplier, manufacturing, all the polymer manufacturing industries and application end users who are the tier 1 level auto parts manufacturer. They are also interested in this. So we would like to welcome any other potential interested parties. So this is not necessarily about the feedstock suppliers or the tier 1 auto part manufacturer. We are interested in other resin additive manufacturers. For example, here we are talking about interior automotive parts, thermoplastic parts. But these products can also be used for phenolic resin application, a filler or reactive filler for epoxy resins. And similarly, other polymeric industries can also be interested on that. And we can also modify the existing product at a better performance. For example, foam and other products can also be modified using this technology. Now let us look at the market opportunities. So this is a chart from Lucintel's published data in 2012. It shows only for automotive sector how much is the volume of resin, and these are for different types of resin, and this is only for automotive composite industries. And you can see these are the volume in millions of pounds for polyester, epoxy, vinyl ester, phenolic, polyurethane, and thermoplastic resins. And we have quoted here the prices of those resins per pound basis. And we believe our product can be as low as $1 per pound. So I believe that this kind of material, this particular technology that we have developed, we are working on lignin-based carbon fiber in the lab. And our knowledge base, whatever we have learned on that work, we are leveraging that for making this product to make a short-term success. I believe that lignin-derived plastic will be the low-hanging fruit for this kind of value-added product development from lignin. And technology summary, to date, we believe that this is TRL level 5, technology readiness level 5. 6.4 megapascal tensile strength we have demonstrated. I'm confident that we can go there to 10 megapascal very easily. We are right now for 240% ultimate elongation. 100% would be more than enough. I believe the major obstacle would be still this is not petroleum derived product, bio-derived product. I don't know what kind of obstacle would be there in the market. And intellectual property wise, from one disclosure, we filed one patent, and then again divisional patent and another new invention disclosure has been made. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any question. Thank you for your patience. Yes, Mike.
So, Ahmed, you said that you can put this together for $1 a pound.
Right.
What is the price point of the nearest competing technology?
So, the other products, for example, polyester, vinyl ester, those products are nearly $2 per pound. And of course, if it is polypropylene or something, but polypropylene composite doesn't exist, doesn't used in carbon fiber reinforced composite application. Other rubbery products will be nearly $2 per pound, where of course everything is petroleum derived. Where here we are talking about at least 50%, I forgot to mention that, 50 to 60% lignin can be loaded in that product. And that is the plus point, where lignin value after this kind of whatever purification requirement we are talking about would vary from 20 cent to 30 cent per pound. So we are putting that 20 cent or 30 cent per pound material in a product that can be sold at $1 per pound. So I believe there is significant margin. And in fact, that attracts a lot of paper mill or other lignin manufacturers. Yes, sir.
I've spoken with some people down in Vonore at the switchgrass biomass ethanol factory, and my understanding is one of their residue materials is also maybe lignin, and it might be different than the poplar shown on the slide. But have you thought about switchgrass residue, or is that something still part of it?
So, good question. Our technology is source neutral. It only recognizes phenolic hydroxyl group or ortho position to that phenolic ring. Any material that has that kind of chemistry, it would work here. So any lignin, it doesn't matter whether it is switchgrass derived, it doesn't matter whether it is hardwood or softwood, but properties can vary. But will that vary significantly? I would say today we got 6 megapascal. It could be 5 or it could be 8 within that range. But similar kind of product can be made from any kind of lignin. So that's another plus point with this technology, that we are source neutral. Yes, sir.
You said, though, that the lignins do vary.
Right.
Like even between poplar species. I mean, so you have to source a specific type or original source of the lignin?
Yes, that's a good question. Carol, can I flip? It's not moving. So, if you recall that the graph I have shown there in the rheological property, that couple of orders of magnitude difference in the original viscosity. That's a transient viscosity data I plotted. That is connected to that is related to the material's characteristic, molecular characteristics of these lignin molecules. So definitely the chemistry of lignin was different. Now look at with time what it does. Ultimately it merges towards almost like similar point. So why this is important? This is important. What is the viscosity? So our technology is processing driven. We are, as I mentioned in my previous my answer to previous question, that we are utilizing a particular chemistry to develop this product. Now, why this is important? This is important for processing, and we are developing this product during extrusion itself. So if the viscosity is high and low, within certain time frame, my processing condition would vary. That's why it is important. But at the end, you can see that within 1,000 second is hardly 20 minutes, a little less than 20 minutes. So by that time, the viscosity approaches almost their merges to the similar range. So if I get hardwood, like this kind of poplar, I'll choose a particular condition during extrusion process. If I get a switchgrass which is difficult to extrude, I'll use a different condition, and preferably I can choose a particular surfactant or other plasticizer to make it processable. So again, the specification is what is the molecular weight of the lignin that we are talking about. As long as it is more than 1000 Dalton, we are okay. Someone should not give me the only one unit of the lignin, which will have only 200 Dalton molecular weight. So that would be a monomer. So we don't want that. So as long as it is a oligomeric lignin, it would be okay. Yes, sir.
You mentioned sulfur for the odor for these internal materials. How much does it cost to remove that? How much is that adding that concept cost?
I wouldn't, if it is craft processed, I wouldn't even think about removing that sulfur. It would not be an odor-free product. But if it is coming from soda AQ process, a different kind of, not many paper mill follow that kind of processing though, only a few. But I'd prefer that one for thermoplastic or thermoset development, which is odor-free. Now, sulfur can be removed. There could be some bound sulfur. That sulfur is almost like mercaptan. That's why it smells. But depending on the processing condition, it can be like less than 1% sulfur. And less than 1%. In case of tire also, people add sulfur, and that's why tire smells a little bit. Yes, sir.
How does this affect the UV property?
Good. Lignin is antioxidant. So it would scavenge any free radical generation that is possible. Suppose you have a formulation ethylene propylene diene rubber. That's what if we are targeting to replace. That can generate free radical, and there you have to add an antioxidant. But lignin itself is an antioxidant. So that's at the cost of color, we are getting at least that advantage.